Hi, my name is Lindsay Case, and I'm the Genetic Services Manager for PIC. With Genetic Services being the core of the Agroceres business, today we'll talk about how we deliver genetic value at an increasing rate to Agroceres and their customers. At its core, genetic improvement is all about delivering new boars or new gilts that bring more genetic value or profit potential than the cull animals that they'll be replacing. The faster we can go ahead at bringing in a bigger differential between the genetic potential of the new boar or gilt relative to the animal it's replacing, the faster we're bringing genetic value to the production system. So what we'll be going over now is the pillars of genetic improvement. What we really need to focus on at the core of our company to bring genetic value at an accelerating rate to our customers in Brazil, in Argentina, and in the rest of the world. So the four pillars of genetic improvement are really in four different areas. First, it's measuring what's important. Once we have the right traits in our indexes and the right selection program to maximize value to the swine production chain, the second thing we need to focus on is what population of animals we're selecting from. The larger the population we have to select from, the more likely we are to find an animal that's truly elite to bring back into the herd. The third piece is implementation of the genetic program and the best science. So how are we doing at using the genetic tools available today and using those to drive our genetic program forward? And the final component all really comes down to how are we doing at using new technology, new research to bring value to our customers globally. So when we talk about that data piece, one of the things we need to keep in mind is there's a distribution globally around where pigs are produced, as well as where the meat is being sold. So when we look at a genetic improvement program, we're looking at increasing the profitability of pigs everywhere from North America to Brazil to Asia to Europe. Really everywhere in the world that pigs are raised and everywhere in the world that pork is consumed, we need to be measuring the right traits and including those in our selection programs to continue to deliver value to our customers globally. And looking at PIC's global reach, you can see there's over 40 countries where PIC is very active in terms of selling and raising animals. And we look at that, that would mean there's over 150 million pigs right now being influenced by PIC genetics every year. So when we talk about measuring the right traits, when we think about the ideal sow, no matter where you are in the world, for the producers here in Argentina and Brazil, or other places in Latin America or North America, what we're really trying to improve is the number of kilograms of pork a sow can produce per year for the best cost. So when we look at the sets of traits that we're measuring and trying to improve, when we look at improving total throughput of that sow, it all starts with the right gilt. So having a solid structure and the right quality of the gilt to bring back into the herd is the starting point of everything. After that, looking at whole herd feed efficiency. So we have gilts that come into the herd and are ready to be bred at a younger age. And then once in the herd, sows that on a minimum amount of gestation or lactation feed are producing high-quality piglets, that all adds to or improves the total economics of a production system over time. Then in terms of the litters that that sow is producing, are they quality piglets from birth through to weaning? And that really comes in a couple ways. First, is that sow giving birth to high-quality piglets? Are those piglets robust enough to survive to weaning? And is that sow milking efficiently to produce high weaning weight litters? And all of those would be the components that we're considering in our selection program to again produce the most profitable sow for the global swine industry. Now when we look at the growing pig side, the main driver that we're trying to improve is maximizing the pounds of pork produced or the kilos of pork produced from each turn of a finishing barn. The main components of that are really driving up those growth rates. So in the same amount of time in a finishing barn, those pigs are getting bigger faster. And over the same time, they're doing that without requiring additional feed. So recognizing the value of feed efficiency for Agroceres and its customers, we're trying to improve those growth weights without increasing the feed intake of those animals to grow to heavier weights. Now, we talked at the beginning of the presentation about a global swine industry, and when we look at increasing demand of pork domestically here in Brazil for the local customers, or exportability, so pork produced in Brazil is considered as high value for different export markets, we're also driving forward the eating quality or the eating satisfaction from those pork products. And it was great to see at dinner last night in Rio Claro, just outside of the Agroceres office. We had some fantastic tasting pork here in Brazil for dinner. So as much as I do love a good Brazilian barbecue, the pork that we were able to have last night was truly fantastic. And that was great to see pork consumption within the local market. So once we know what traits we need to select, and again, it's all about improving throughput of commercial production systems for the best cost, the next thing that we need to consider in a genetic selection program, and this really is one component of the PIC and the Agroceres program that sets us apart from our competitors, is where we're measuring the traits, where we're measuring the data to include in our selection program. So with our goal being to improve production in commercial environments in our customers' systems, we need to be measuring the data in those commercial production systems to select for the best animals for commercial performance. And the way we do that is through our extensive and industry-leading what's called GN crossbred program. So the data driving the genetic evaluation is really measured in commercial farms. And how that works is when a new elite boar enters one of the boar studs in one of our genetic farms, his very first doses of semen are actually shipped to a commercial sow farm. From those piglets, we have them fully pedigreed, tied back to their boar in the nucleus genetic environment, and we raise those pigs in commercial production environments. So at commercial stocking densities, on commercial diets, with any potential disease challenges, we're measuring the growth rate and survivability of those pigs under real-world production scenarios. And then we're actually sending those pigs over 250,000 per year through to a slaughter plant where we can capture full primal values on those pigs, as well as our measures of eating satisfaction, again, on real market barrows, on real market gillets, at heavy slaughter weights in commercial production environments. So using real-world data to drive our selection decisions is really helping make sure that our customers are realizing increased productivity on their commercial systems as we make genetic improvement. And when we look at the growth of that program, and again, this really is one that sets PIC apart, there's a significant growth in our investment in the GN crossbred program, recognizing the value that it brings using commercial data to improve commercial production through genetic improvement. So now that we've talked about how we have the right data and the right traits in our selection program to improve productivity for our customers in terms of total pork produced per year in any commercial production system for best cost, the next thing comes down to what pool of animals do we have available to make our selection decisions. And the bigger the pool of animals we have to make our selection decisions, the faster we can make genetic improvement. So you can think about it, if you need to select 10 animals out of 100, or 10 animals out of 100,000, selecting 10 from 100,000 is going to drive the population forward faster. And that's what we refer to as selection intensity in terms of our pillars of genetic improvement. So when we look at our selection intensity, we're increasing the number of GGP and GP sows we have in production. We're increasing the number of terminal boar mothers we have in production. And what that's doing is allowing us to have more data and more animals to select the truly elite from. So continuing to expand our genetic populations in North America and here in Agroceres is one important piece of that. The second component that we're very interested in a company, recognizing that today there is no perfect pig, but we're always trying to make a more perfect pig, is looking at new genetic variation across the globe today. And one of our strategies has been to look for elite genetic populations to incorporate into those. And we've had a couple acquisitions over the past year. When you look at Hermitage in the UK or Mollevang in Denmark, opportunities for us to increase our genetic diversity, increase our selection intensity by incorporating elite genetic products that exist in the world today into our lines to drive progress forward faster where those opportunities exist. So now that we've talked about having the right selection program in terms of the data and the traits, having a large number of animals to select from, which helps drive genetic improvement faster, the next one we'll look at is how accurately we're able to evaluate the information and the animals available to produce indexes. And I would consider our platform in terms of data utilization another Agroceres and another PIC advantage in terms of the global swine industry today. So back in 2013, we were the first swine genetics company and the first really animal genetics company to introduce on a large scale our genomics platform, which we call relationship-based genomics selection. Since we were first to market, over the past 6 years, we've had the opportunity to expand our data capture, to learn a lot more about the technology, and even tweak it. So being first to market and then having the most experience, we've been able to tweak it to make it even more efficient over time for our customers. And ultimately, what that resulted in is a 35 to 40% increased rate of genetic improvement by more accurately using the data to evaluate animals and production systems. So relationship-based genomic selection, or genomics, sounds like a mouthful. So practically, how are we using that to get more accurate at our selection decisions? So if you look at the graph behind me, in the past, when we made our genetic selection decision, we had a boar, and we had a gilt or a sow, and from those litters, we took the average index or genetic potential of the dad, the average of the mom, and gave that genetic potential to all the piglets. But what we can do now is get individual genetic profiles of each active animal in the production system. It's essentially like having a unique genetic fingerprint of every animal in our genetic farms. So what we can do is now we no longer say that every brother and sister, every gilt or newborn in a litter is equal in terms of genetic potential. We can use their unique genetic profiles to track through which ones within a litter are truly the most genetically elite. So if we continue on this example, just like all piglets in a litter don't look alike, when we start to add off-test data, for example, you can start to see differences in pigs. Now, as those animals come off test, we're able to incorporate not only their performance differences on test, but also their genetic differences. So in this litter behind me, we're no longer assuming that all of the animals got the same genetic potential from their mom and their dad. You can see on one side here, we have two boars that came off test. They look fast-growing. They're the biggest ones in the litter. They look very lean when we took our back fat and loin depth data. We sent their sons through the GN crossbred program and their daughters through the GN crossbred program, and they had an advantage in terms of robustness. Now we can see that those two brothers got a different set of genetic information than some of their litter mates we have one dumpy pig and two animals that just look okay. Well, now we can associate that better performance on test in terms of value to a commercial production system with that genetic profile, and we can go in and say, instead of assuming this entire litter represented good selection candidates, we can select the two really good boars and then pass on the other ones and make different selection decisions to optimize the animals we're bringing back in at the genetic level. So by being more accurate in terms of our selection decisions, when, for example, we're only trying to pick 10 animals out of 100,000, the better we can do at picking the truly best 10, the faster our populations will move ahead. And our experience and the scope and scale of our relationship-based genetics program makes PIC an industry leader in this area in terms of how we're using the commercial data, using the plant data, using the genetic data to make our selection decisions. So we mentioned that with relationship-based genomic selection, our rates of genetic improvement have improved by 35 to 40%. And this is just really an example of the achievements that we've made at the PIC level and that we're importing into Brazil with every intake of new boars in terms of driving forward an accelerated rate of genetic improvement in our products. So for an example here, you can see our increased rate of genetic improvement for two things: total born, continuing to improve the number of piglets born per sow per year, and the survivability of those piglets. So by including individual piglet birth weight in our selection program, using relationship-based genomic selection to be as accurate as possible using that new data source, we're able to improve total litter size as well as the quality of that litter to improve the number and the quality of the weaned piglets each sow is producing per year. And I think this is a huge testament to the three pillars we've just been discussing in terms of having the right traits in the index, measuring them in commercial environments, and then using relationship-based genomic selection to get more accurate, and the acceleration that we're actually seeing in the genetic program from being the best at implementing each of the pillars within the genetic improvement program. And these would be similar examples showing some of the progress we're seeing in grow-finish traits of that weaned pig and getting it to market as efficiently as possible with the heaviest weights possible and driving forward carcass value. So similar to what we saw in some of the other traits, as we've moved forward with the right data sources with the crossbred program, using relationship-based genomic selection, we're tangibly seeing accelerated rates of genetic improvement in our program. And I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to the genetic improvement technologies, but looking at this just makes me really excited about the potential performance improvement that's going to be passed on to Agroceres and our customers. This is a huge achievement for us as a company that our customers are going to directly benefit from in the future. So the final piece to talk about is how we're staying engaged both within our own R&D platform, working with industry-leading universities on looking at new R&D, new research that can help drive our genetics platforms forward in new or different or accelerating ways in the future. One of those is expanding the amount of detail we get about those genetic profiles by fully genotyping animals within our population. So that will give us a lot more access to go from looking at relationship-based genetic selection, which improves our routine genetic evaluations, and honestly, that's the best way to use genomic information to benefit our customers today, to a bit more of a research level, where if we have a fully genotyped animal, we can start looking for causative genes that have a positive impact on production traits of interest. So this is a new set of research and development that will help us learn more about our populations and specific genes that may, in the future, help us improve the production for our customers. An example of how we can use that information would be for things like gene editing. And PIC and Agroceres are one of the first companies to start to look at gene editing as a go-to-market product to benefit global pig welfare and global pig survivability. So we're now working with gene editing technology, and through that have created a pig-resistant PRRS, which globally is the most deadly swine disease, to improve the welfare, the survivability, and the throughput of production systems for pigs globally. So we are continuing to look at the newest science that we can incorporate into our genetic platform to bring more value for the global swine industry in the future. So I would just say the future of the global swine industry is extremely bright. We talk a lot to customers about genetics, and really genetics can be boiled down into the 4 pillars that we looked at today. You need the best data, and you need to be selecting the animals in a way that's going to bring value to the customers. The next thing that you need to do is measure those traits on commercial pigs and have a big population to select from so we can stock farms for new customers and increase the selection intensity to drive our own population forwards faster. Then, looking at ways to be more accurate at turning that data side into commercial selection decisions. So as we deliver a new boar or a new gilt to a customer farm, we know that the performance potential of that is going to be significantly higher, and confidently we can say that it's going to be higher than the animal that it's replacing. And the final piece is always staying on top of new technology that can bring more value to us in the future. So with all that, we can see the rates of genetic improvement in our customers' herds that are going to be available to Agroceres now and then into the next 10 years are outstanding. And I think we as a company can just be excited about seeing improved performance potential of our customers over time. And then one of the other things practically is to continue to work with the customer services teams and the sales teams to get ready for those extra pigs that our customers are going to be producing in the future. So thank you.